From an unexpected sneeze gone wrong to a wild arm wrestling accident, these are the weirdest ways wrestlers were injured. Hey there, wrestling fans! In today's video, we'll be diving into some of the strangest and most shocking injuries that have happened in the world of wrestling. Grab some popcorn, because things are about to get weird. Sid Vicious and the leg break of doom. Let's start with one of the most infamous injuries in wrestling history. Sid Vicious, also known as Sid Udy, was born on December 16, 1960. Known for his powerhouse physique and intimidating presence, decided to try his luck with a flying move during a WCW pay-per-view event in 2001. As he leapt from the second rope, he landed awkwardly, causing his leg to snap in a gruesome fashion. While this might not seem like a bizarre injury at first, the fact that Sid rarely performed high-flying moves makes it all the stranger. In the aftermath, Sid admitted that he felt pressure to try something new, which unfortunately led to the end of his in-ring career. Talk about a leap of faith gone wrong. The sneezing spree, Mr. Fuji's unfortunate rib injury. Now this one might sound like a joke, but trust us, it's not. Mr. Fuji, also known as Harry Masayoshi Fujiwara, a legendary wrestler and manager, found himself in a world of pain after a simple sneeze. In the middle of the 1980s, Fuji experienced a severe case of the sniffles. He actually cracked a rib. Fellow wrestlers and fans alike couldn't believe that something so mundane could lead to such a painful injury. Thankfully, Mr. Fuji eventually healed and continued his successful career, but he'll always be remembered for that bizarre sneezing incident. And now for a bizarre twist in the ring, Vader and the pop-out eyeball. During a match with Stan Hansen in 1990, Vader took a hit that would leave even the toughest wrestlers cringing. Hansen accidentally poked Vader's eye with his thumb, causing the massive wrestler's eyeball to pop out of its socket. Incredibly, Vader continued the match after popping his eye back into place. Later, he'd recall this shocking moment in interviews, admitting that he didn't feel much pain, but that the sheer weirdness of the situation left him shaken. Talk about keeping an eye on the competition. Vader's eye injury became famous in the wrestling world and is often referenced in discussions of shocking or bizarre injuries. It even earned him the nickname, the man with the detachable eyeball. As an FYI, Vader's eye injury was just one of many challenges he faced during his long and storied career in wrestling. Despite numerous injuries and setbacks, he remained one of the sport's most beloved and respected figures until his death in 2018. The freak arm wrestling accident, Buff Bagwell. Buff Bagwell, known for his muscular physique, was involved in one of the strangest injury incidents in wrestling history. In 1998, during an episode of WCW Thunder, Bagwell was participating in an arm wrestling contest against Scott Steiner. As they struggled for supremacy, Bagwell's arm suddenly snapped, resulting in a sickening compound fracture. It turned out that he had a pre-existing injury that was aggravated during the contest. The sheer shock of the situation left fans and fellow wrestlers stunned. Who knew arm wrestling could be so dangerous? Following the incident, Bagwell was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. Doctors had to insert a metal plate and several screws in his arm to repair the damage. He was out of action for several months as he recovered from the injury. Maybe even turned him into a bionic man, but we will never know. Like Vader, you will also see a pattern, because Bagwell's arm injury wasn't the only bizarre incident he experienced during his wrestling career. In 2001, he was involved in a car accident that left him with a broken neck. Miraculously, he was able to make a full recovery and return to wrestling just a few months later. The chair shot heard round the world, Marty Garner's misjudgment. Sometimes a small misunderstanding can lead to a big injury. In 1996, Marty Garner found himself on the receiving end of a brutal chair shot from Triple H. Garner, unfamiliar with Triple H's finishing move, the pedigree, ended up taking the full force of the chair to his face. The result? A broken nose and several stitches. Garner later sued WWE, claiming that he was not adequately instructed on how to perform the move. The case was eventually settled out of court, but it serves as a reminder that even the simplest moves can go wrong in the world of wrestling when miscommunication occurs. So remember, kids, always make sure you're on the same page with your opponents. Joke! I would also like to note that the lawsuit filed by Garner was just one of many legal challenges that wrestling promotions have faced over the years. From claims of unsafe working conditions to accusations of steroid abuse, Wrestling has been the subject of numerous lawsuits and controversies over the years. Despite the risk and challenges of wrestling, it remains one of the most popular and enduring forms of entertainment in the world. Wrestlers continue to push the limits of what's possible in the ring, thrilling fans with their athleticism and showmanship and inspiring generations of aspiring wrestlers to follow in their footsteps. The Unlikely Saboteur, Kevin Nash, and the Rogue Cup of Coffee. When you think of wrestling injuries, you probably don't think of a cup of coffee as the main culprit, but for Kevin Nash, that's exactly what caused a painful mishap in 2007. During an episode of TNA Impact, Nash was preparing for a backstage segment when he slipped on a puddle of spilled coffee. The fall resulted in a torn bicep for the wrestling veteran. Nash would later joke about the incident, pointing out that he'd been through numerous brutal matches, only to be defeated by a stray cup of coffee. It just goes to show that even the smallest obstacles can cause big problems for these larger-than-life athletes. A painful dislocation. Chris Jericho and the spinning wheel kick. In 1994, Chris Jericho found himself on the receiving end of a bizarre and painful injury during a match in Japan. As his opponent, Gedo, executed a spinning wheel kick, Jericho attempted to catch him, but the momentum caused Jericho's arm to dislocate. The match was quickly stopped, and Jericho had to be rushed to the hospital for treatment. In a later interview, Jericho would recall the injury as one of the most painful experiences of his career, but it didn't stop him from becoming one of wrestling's biggest stars. Sometimes a minor mistake can lead to a major setback. I would like to mention that Jericho's injury was a reminder of the physical risk that wrestlers face every time they step into the ring. Even seemingly harmless moves can result in serious injuries, especially when executed improperly or with too much force. The incident also highlighted the importance of proper training and preparation for wrestlers. Critics argue that wrestlers should receive more instruction on how to safely execute moves and protect themselves from injury, while others argue that injuries are an inherent part of the sport. And last but not least, some honorable mentions. Xavier Woods and the unfriendly turnbuckle. In a 2019 WWE live event, Xavier Woods suffered a shocking injury when his Achilles tendon ruptured during a match. The injury occurred when Woods ran towards the turnbuckle, intending to execute a high-impact move. There wasn't any contact or noticeable misstep, but Woods immediately collapsed, clutching his leg in pain. The match was quickly stopped, and Woods was helped to the back. He would later undergo surgery and spend months on the sidelines, rehabilitating the injury. Woods' injury is a prime example of how even routine in-ring maneuvers can go awry and result in serious damage. Becky Lynch and the face-breaking punch. In the lead-up to WWE's 2018 Survivor Series, the women of SmackDown invade Raw to hype up the brand warfare. During the ensuing brawl, Nia Jax accidentally punched Becky Lynch in the face, breaking her nose and causing a concussion. Despite her injuries, Lynch continued the brawl, cementing her reputation as the man and creating an iconic image of her standing tall, bloodied, and defiant. Unfortunately, Lynch's injuries forced her to be pulled from her scheduled match against Ronda Rousey, but this moment played a significant role in solidifying her status as one of the top stars in WWE. These honorable mentions prove that even in recent years, wrestling injuries can come from the most unexpected places. So, from Kevin Nash's unfortunate encounter with a puddle of coffee, to Sid Vicious's ill-fated leap from the second rope, those were the weirdest ways wrestlers were injured. It just goes to show that anything can happen in the world of wrestling, and even the most experienced athletes can find themselves in some truly bizarre situations. We hope you enjoyed this look at some of the weirdest injuries in wrestling history. If you know of any other strange or shocking wrestling injuries, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more awesome wrestling content.